Okay, good. Thank you very much, brothers, for for having me on this morning. It's quite an honor to be participating in this breakfast or this morning, Saturday morning meeting of yours, and really commendable that you guys have had this going for so long. And thanks, Sam, for reaching out and pushing me and making sure that it was finally scheduled. I'm trying to. We wanted to. The request was just that we would have some chat about men's issues and men's health. But I'm really excited, guys, that we can huddle around this this topic, because it's not only is it just topical, it's very important, and for men in particular, because men, as far as health is concerned, are kind of ambushed in today's world, in the sense that it's just go, and ignoring some of the key science or some of the key issues around well-being, and we end up paying a price. That first slide there is just talking about how the body is really the only thing that we have outside of our salvation. That's your health is the only thing that you can truly have, and you know that life becomes meaningless when health fades. You could have every single thing on the planet, but once your health is failing, everything else becomes less of a priority and less, because you need that suit of your body to be able to carry. So, and then for us as Christians, we know that also that this body is been marked as the temple of the Holy Spirit, which means God also does his activities on the earth through our bodies. And so there's a degree of stewardship that is required, and a lot more research and understanding into how it functions. I have a next, I just like to share some trivia. That next slide that talks about we are woven and fearfully, wonderfully made. I use this slide for my medical students. That if you imagine how complex you are made, how complex that your heart beats 100,000 times a day, non-stop, never stopped since the day you were born to the day you rest. Every day, 100,000 times a day. I love to build old cars, and we rate these cars usually by how long the engine lasts. So the oldest engine I have is a 1960 Mercedes 250S engine, and even then, you can tell that when you start it, you got to drive it carefully. You can't go uphill and go fast, because it just can't take, even though it's made by Mercedes, it can't take 57 years comfortably. And yet your heart will do that very easily. Your heart in a day will process 7,500 liters of blood in a day, just circulating it, and never complains usually, and you're not even aware you're actually doing other things as it is doing this. And your body will control its temperature between 36 and 37 for most of your life. And your kidneys are making urine 1 cc of urine times your body weight every hour. So if you're 70 kgs, your kidneys are making 70 mils of urine every hour for the rest of your life. So it's really commendable, this thing that we have. But it also, because it functions so well, and because most of the organs were made double, you have 2 lungs, you have 2 kidneys, your brain has got 2 sides, you have 2 testicles, you have, because of that, a lot of the times the wear and tear is masked and isn't apparent until things are really bad. I mean, for people who are diabetic, who don't do checkups, the times that they present with symptoms is usually 5 or 6 years after the onset of diabetes in their body, while diabetes has been doing its thing in their body. And they only start to get the thirst or the peeing a lot or the abnormal eating in the 5th or the 6th year. And by this time, the effect on the eyes, on the kidneys, the effect on the blood vessels has really had a head start. So if we have that background, what I tried to do was to split the systems of the body into what the main ones, into what they do and what happens when something goes wrong, and how we could catch it early and what we could do about it. So guys, I think a lot of you, and I'm going to go quite quickly through this, and I think a lot of us are aware of this, and so that when we get to the discussion, to the question and answers, maybe that we can then clarify a bit more. But if you look at your heart system, which I was just praising for its efficiency, its job is really to circulate blood around the body, the blood with oxygen and the blood that needs oxygen, that's circulated. So basically it's a pump, it's an engine that we have, and it sits there and it does that faithfully. When that thing doesn't work, when I say the malfunction there, what is called heart failure is simply pump failure. It means that it's no longer adequately able to circulate the blood, and so the body shows the signs and symptoms of inadequate circulation. So the commonest cause of pump failure is strain. So if I drove my old car from here to Masvingo in first, not going to last because I'm straining the engine. It needs to be in the traveling gear or the 5th gear, which is smooth. When you have hypertension, when you have high blood pressure, the pipes that convey blood from the pump are tight. And so the pump is working at high revs or at high strain, and it eventually fails. And it's just simply that. Or if you carry a load that is bigger than the capacity of your own muscles to carry. So when you go to the gym, you feel your muscles burn when you get to a certain weight or number of reps, and you stop. And high blood pressure is that kind of a thing on your heart. It just strains, but then the heart doesn't have the option to stop, and it keeps going and then strains. And you can see little blue and red vessels on the heart there. The heart itself also gets blood to support its own function. If any of those veins or arteries is suddenly blocked, particularly the arteries, the heart doesn't get oxygen, and that is what is called a heart attack. A heart attack is simply a heart failing to get the fuel that it requires, and it's usually because one of those vessels is blocked, and those vessels block usually because of cholesterol or high blood pressure. And so it's very easy to screen. If you keep your blood pressure within the normal range, most of the failure of the pump is not going to happen. And if you then check that your blood vessels are not clogged up with cholesterol, that also helps to maintain the heart health. And the things that you can do, that we can do for maintenance of that is to exercise. Aerobic exercise will keep heart in good condition, and weight control will make sure that you're not getting the bad fat around your heart system, and also that you're not asking the body to circulate blood to a larger volume than it was designed to. So if you were 69 kgs in Form 6 as I was, and you're now 100 kgs, there is some additional activity being required for your heart to circulate enough. So this is now topical. This is the lungs, and the lungs basically get the oxygen in and get the carbon dioxide out. And very, very important system, and which is threatened the most in our time now by cigarette smoke, by vaping, and by staying in polluted environments. So cigarettes used to just, the nicotine in the cigarette goes into your blood. Its effect is in your blood. But the tar that's in cigarettes and lines your lungs and causes them to become irritated, more prone to infection, but eventually the irritation predisposes them to lung cancer. That's how a cigarette tar causes lung cancer. But there's a new innovation now called vaping. And vaping is very high nicotine, very, very high nicotine, sometimes as much as 10 times per vaping episode as in a cigarette. But the real issue with vaping is that they have put aerosol in it to try and to push the liquid into the lungs. They use, kind of the same aerosol that you need in deodorants or in insect killer to move the gas forward. And that aerosol starts to disintegrate the architecture of the lung. And people are being found now 7 to 8 years after regular vaping that they start to drown because their lungs are broken down and they can't get fluid out of their lungs. And it's a very painful, slow death of vaping because it feels that they call it vaping associated lung injury. It feels like you are drowning. And again, avoiding pollution, avoiding smoking, passive and active, avoiding vaping, and exercise. So when you exercise, you know how cars have an engine capacity, so many cc's. When you exercise and when you frequently expand your lungs to the full, you can increase the capacity of your lungs and increase the reserve that you have for a day when the lungs aren't functioning well. So exercise, that's why you find physiotherapists are always telling you to blow your lungs out and take a walk, take deep breaths. It's really just to keep expanding your lungs to their maximal capacity so that on the day that your capacity is compromised, you have some reserve that you can use. So that's the digestive system, which includes the liver, the intestines, and its job is to take food, process it, and to give energy and building blocks to the body. This is a really incredible system. You know, your liver can work so hard and can go for so many years with abuse and not complain. But if you develop liver failure, most people with liver failure will die because it's just so important to the body that without it, and all its function is it removes toxins from your body. It makes so many chemicals that are required for the body. All your blood clotting factors are made in the liver. Hormones are made and processed in the liver. And so when the liver is damaged, particularly by alcohol, and you get that condition called liver cirrhosis, it's after years and years and years of just being quiet. And then when it eventually packs up, it's very, very difficult to reverse. And the digestive system is important to keep in check because it also doesn't complain. Most people with colon cancer or stomach cancer have had it for 3 or 4 years before it has even produced the first symptom. And one of the reasons is because there's so much, it's like a balloon, there's so much space for a tumor to grow that it doesn't, you don't, unless you bleed or unless it blocks, you don't know for a long time. And that's why you can't wait for symptoms to be able to check. That's why we say that after 40 years of age, you should have one colonoscopy just to check that your colon is okay. And if you have a family history, then you have it every 2 years. If you do not have a family history, it's good. It's okay to have it once every 5 years as a screen. But the colon needs to be checked. The colon is that thickish tube that you're seeing on your screen. The stomach, you know, I don't know about in South Africa, but here the medical care professionals have got this word that they use, that munanima acid. Someone has got acids. When someone is having heartburn or someone is getting frequent nausea, they just say it's acids. Everyone has acid. The stomach works on acid. Why are your acids causing you symptoms? So people that have frequent heartburn, reflux and all that, you need to have an endoscopy just to check, is it just the hyperacid, excessive acid, or is there an ulcer, or even is there growth in there? So the system needs a check. And the worst things in our digestive system are colon cancer, liver cancer, and stomach cancer. I mean, cancer of the pancreas, which is included here, does not, by the time pancreatic cancer shows, and it usually shows by yellowness, you know, when someone gets jaundice, by the time it shows and has symptoms, the patient has less than 6 months. And yet there is screening and there's checks that could be done in advance. And that cancer is not, no matter what we have done so far, medical science has not had an impact. The same thing that Steve Jobs had. They've tried every single thing. And a lot of you recall his words at the end, that if you don't have health and if you don't have love around you, everything else is pretty meaningless. And so I'm hoping that we can have some robust discussion about the digestive system. Genital urinary system is your urine system and your reproductive system. You know, I said when I get to heaven, I'll ask God why 2 testicles that weigh less than 70 grams are the ones that tell that determine who I am in terms of my gender. And everything else works, whether I'm a boy or girl, works off the fact that do I have ovaries of testes. But the kidneys are so important for getting rid of waste and regulating blood pressure and just maintaining the internal environment. And you only need 1 kidney. That's how good they are. But so many people have no idea how their kidneys are functioning. And diabetes is hard on kidneys. High blood pressure is hard on kidneys, and medications can be hard on kidneys. We used to lose so many men in Zimbabwe in the 80s. We used to go to a place called Zindoga to eat mazondo, cow's hooves with, but they used to put a powder in there that was supposed to enhance sexual function. And it may have done the enhancement of sexual function, but it also was very, very poisonous to the kidneys. And so they would take this food and they would start to pass blood in their urine. And they used to think that passing the blood is a sign that the medication is working. But that was the first warning of kidney failure. And eventually they would come with failure to pass urine and kidneys that are shot. So kidney health is maintained by keeping well hydrated. They love passing urine from lots of water. They love that. That keeps them going. If you control blood pressure, you don't hit them with high pressures to deal with. You know, it's like being hit with a hose pipe, one of those fire hoses, and being asked to drink water out of that. You get overwhelmed. And kidneys, if they are being asked to filter with high blood pressure, they also have a similar problem. Then, as I said, medications, be careful, especially pain medications. If they're taken for a long time, they also have an impact on the kidney. You can see my diagram is not so clear. You can see a penis there, and at the base of that penis, there's a prostate. Can you see my cursor? I don't know. This is the urine bladder there. Then you have a prostate gland. A prostate gland is kind of that's it. That's the prostate. So urine goes from above the kidneys into that big bladder tank, and then it goes through the prostate out the penis. In the same way, as you can see, the testes there, they've got those two tubes that go back into the abdomen and come back through the prostate and out that. So that's where the semen and the sperm comes through. So the prostate has nutrition for seed, for sperm, but it surrounds the pipe that goes out. And when that grows, it kind of chokes. If it grows too big, it chokes the urinary pipe. If that makes sense what I'm saying, it chokes the urinary pipe. And so you start to get straining when you pass urine, and it can grow in a good, it can grow in a cancerous way and in a non-cancerous way. So most of the prostate trouble with difficulty in passing urine is not cancer. It's just that it's overgrown and it's choking the pipe. And the cancer growth of the prostate can go on for years without symptoms, because it'll just be in one small part of the prostate and it'll be growing there. It doesn't choke the urine as a first symptom. And so people never know that they've got prostate cancer that has started. And the ones that are panicking because they're having difficulty in urine, it's usually the non-cancerous growth. It's important to take care of that non-cancerous growth, because if there's too much back pressure, it also causes problems with the kidney, the quality of sleep, which we're going to talk about later. But prostate cancer just grows slowly and quietly, and by the time, again, it spreads, it's a terrible condition if it spreads, because it likes to spread to the bones around the pelvis, those bones that you're seeing there. And it's one of the most painful conditions known to man. And then it also likes to spread to around those two pipes that are going up to the kidney and blocks them, and you get kidney failure just from blocked drainage of the kidney system. But a blood test and a rectal examination done can pick prostate cancer early, and that test called the PSA, which is supposed to be between 0 and 4, is a good way of screening. Every man after 40 should just have a PSA done once a year, and you can tell if there's something going the matter. And if you have symptoms of prostate enlargement, and the commonest symptom is waking up more than twice at night to pee when you haven't drunk excessive fluids before you go to bed, and you just go and have it checked. There's an ultrasound that can be done. There's a biopsy that can be done. And prostate cancer is one of the slowest cancers to grow and one of the easiest to treat if it is caught early. So they say that you should die with prostate cancer, not of prostate cancer. If prostate was diagnosed, it shouldn't kill you. It may remain managed and with you for the rest of your life, but not be the determiner of the length of life of your your lifespan. So and then the big one, a very big one now, is erectile dysfunction, which is either failure to get an erection or failure to maintain an erection. And there's so many things that cause this. The common is just being stressed, and so people rush and start to buy blue pills on the street here in Zimbabwe at 5 Avenue. It's a big industry. But by buying those blue pills without knowing what is the cause of your erectile dysfunction can be just as dangerous, because, as I said, erectile dysfunction may be from just stress and hard work and bad emotional patch that you'd be going through. That's one. Another may be that your male hormone is low, your testosterone is low, especially if you have gained a lot of weight, and particularly a lot of weight around the waist and the abdomen area. Your testosterone level goes down, and that can be taken care of easily with medication, but also just with exercise. Anytime you do strength exercise, your testosterone level goes up. But another, a very important reason that people can get erectile dysfunction is that if they're not getting good enough blood supply to their pelvic and penis area, and get failure, usually in older gentlemen. And it may be a sign that your circulation is poor, and many people who have that end up with a heart attack as well, because the circulation is poor. And they make it worse by taking Viagra without being prescribed. And the Viagra puts more strain on their heart, and they also collapse because they're taking medication without having this checked out. So prostate cancer and enlargement can be assessed. Kidney failure is just a blood test that tells you how well your kidneys are doing. I'm not going to ask people here to put their hand up how many know if your kidney was rated as 70% of normal, 80% of normal, because there is a percentage of kidney function that they have at the bottom of your kidney function test, and it takes 5 minutes to do. Erectile dysfunction, before medication is prescribed, the cause of it must first be established. But there is it's almost, unless someone has had surgery in the pelvis or a spinal injury where the nerves are broken, almost everyone can be repaired back to erectile function if you are open about it and you work with people that know. Next one, please. Thanks, Langton. Now, I call this the metabolic system, but this is how the chemicals and the hormones in your body are working. So how the pancreas is working to regulate blood sugar, how the thyroid, which is in your neck, works to regulate the rate at which your body processes things, the cholesterol in your body. It's so important that I just mentioned something here, and it's something that has become more common in Africans than it used to be. And it's around weight, yes, but it's got to do with how your body processes sugar. So there is a balance in our system between when we eat things that have energy in them, carbohydrates, etc. The body goes and reads that, and it needs the energy. It reads that. It produces insulin that causes that sugar to go to go into the cells for function. And I want to simplify it. So you get petrol into your tank, which is the food that you eat. but the petrol needs to go into the engine to make the system work. And the engine for us are our muscles, our brain, where energy is required. But you need a key to start the car for the fuel to go from the tank to the engine. And that key in our bodies is insulin. Insulin is produced by the pancreas. If it is released, it takes that sugar, which is in the blood from the digestion, into where it's required. And it maintains a normal sugar level in our system. If you don't have enough insulin, it means the sugar level in the blood goes up because the petrol is not going into the engine. You're getting flooding. If that happens, then the sugar, which stays for a long time in the blood, begins to do the damage to the blood vessels, the damage to the kidneys, the damage to the eyes, and the damage to the blood vessels. That's how high sugar then works. But if you develop fat around the organs inside, I'm not just talking about fat that you see on the outside. If you develop fat around your liver, fat around the pancreas, fat around the heart, even if you have insulin, the insulin doesn't work as well. So it's not its most efficient. And when the insulin is not working as well, what is called insulin resistance, and I want everyone to write this down, insulin resistance is on the rise. So you have insulin in your body, but it's not working as well, or your body resists its function. So your body then ends up producing more insulin than it needs to try and compensate for the insulin that's not working well. And I'm sorry that it's sounding too scientific, but this is so important. And once you have insulin resistance and high circulating insulin to try and compensate for its poor function, that high circulating insulin predisposes people to cancers. So brain cancers, stomach cancers, colon cancers, just because of insulin resistance caused by depositing of fat in the organs. Fat on the outside does suggest that you might have fat on the internal organs, but you can be thin with internal organ fat. But for men, if you start to get a thick pad around the waist, that's usually a sign that you are depositing abnormal fat and a risk for insulin resistance. This is so important to understand and to know. And our diet becomes crucial. The amount of sugar that we eat is just simply too much. And the lack of exercise. So when you are in your teens, I mean, like your kids that are 3 and 4, they are running all the time. And they're burning they can drink cooking oil and they'll burn it. But as you get older, you have to keep moving to burn everything that is being deposited in excess. And this, not even us doctors teach it enough. It's not just, there's a blood test that is called the HbA1c that they do as a sugar test that shows you how much sugar you have circulating in your body over a long period of time. It's a simple test to do, and it's a simple one to monitor, but that tells you a lot about things. And it's not just diabetes that we are worried about. It's the link between diabetes and cancer. So we have to maintain ideal weight, but exercise is I'm almost going to say is spiritual. It's one of the key maintenance things that you can do to your body, and one of the things that has the impact on insulin resistance and high sugar. There is a lot of talk now and science that is coming out that how animals behave in the wild should be how humans emulate around feeding. Most wild animals every day. which is why you can eat vegetables every day, because we are both herbivores and carnivores. Herbivores eat every day. But carnivores, lions, go 10, 14 days without eating. And that should give you an impact and your suggestion of how much meat you eat. Because people have bacon for breakfast, they have a hamburger for lunch, and they have a steak in the evening. And there's too much food being eaten. When your body starves for a short period, it becomes more efficient. And that's why fasting just wasn't a spiritual exercise. Fasting is a physiological exercise. People that fast regularly have a better working system when we're talking about this metabolic system and this insulin resistance that I was talking about. And that's why this craze for intermittent fasting has some impact, but it wasn't explained well enough. When your body is denied free food, it has to work on the food that it has stored. And that becomes an efficient way of dealing with, and it burns this fat that is deposited around organs. I'm sure we'll have time to discuss this a bit more later. But this slide doesn't do justice to itself. Is a key slide for us about the regulation of our weight, the regulation of our metabolism, and the regulation of our sugar. Let me have the next one, please, Langton. Now, everything is controlled by our brain. And the central nervous system is so neglected and yet so important. And you don't need to be told about this. When you have a stroke, which means one of the blood vessels that goes to the brain is blocked, and the brain goes for a period of time without oxygen, and that place is sacrificed, you know the effects, because you have two brains controlling one half of the body. If that side of the brain is damaged, the part of the body it controls then stops moving. One of the most devastating conditions, because the mind is working but the body is not cooperating, and someone has to be helped just to do day-to-day activities. The brain also is the one that every activity in the body is controlled. Besides just thinking, the brain coordinates everything else. And one of the most important things you can do for your brain is to give it enough sleep. Because the brain repairs itself, as does most of the body, but the brain repairs itself when you are asleep, especially when you are in the right level of sleep. There are different degrees of sleep, and there's a deep sleep that in that sleep where we dream, and that is the sleep that the brain craves for, because it gets to repair all its damage that will have occurred during the day. And I know that having been to university or being entrepreneurs, we have sayings like, "I'll sleep when I die," and the Bible says, "A little sleep, a little slumber, and poverty will creep on you." Don't forget the scripture that says that God gives sleep, right amount of sleep to those he loves, and right quality of sleep to those he loves. So the brain, and now there is a link that is being seen between dementia and brain that doesn't get enough exercise and doesn't get enough sleep. So just to say that the brain is key, and the brain requires time to repair itself, and it can, and that our mental well-being, which things like depression and anxiety, because they occur at the brain level, then have a devastating effect on the rest of the body. Men don't talk about stress. Men don't talk about going through financial difficulties. Men don't talk about marital issues. And it's all centered in the brain. and eventually takes a toll on the rest of how the rest of the body is working. I am seeing a lot more dementia in African people now than we used to see. I have so many patients or relatives, patients that don't remember their children, that don't remember that they used to work, that get lost if they're left to walk around. And dementia, which is beginning to get a lot more attention, and a lot more studies are showing that there's some people that have a tendency towards it and that can be picked up early, and that there's some experimental medication now that's beginning to show some signs to help with dementia. But people that are well exercised in their 40s, especially aerobic exercise, seem to postpone dementia even when they have a genetic tendency towards it. And people that sleep, 6 hours is a minimum that people sleep, and that people should sleep. And on average, I mean, babies below a year sleep 14 to 18 hours. And that just should tell you, and babies that sleep well grow well. So the brain does its best work when those kids are sleeping. And we need less and less sleep as we get older, but we still need good quality rest and sleep. Okay, so this this is just talking about some of the things, some take-home points. That weight must be watched. Maintain your normal BMI range. Weight around the trunk for a man is the worst. This beer belly or rhodesia front, or this accumulation that is usually a surrogate marker of things that are accumulating elsewhere. Crash programs for weight management generally crash. It needs to be a consistent discipline, reducing calories, increasing exercise. And I said on the right there, build cardiac reserve. I don't know how I can best explain this. So we say that your pulse rate, normal pulse rate, should be between 60 and 100, but most people are around the 70 mark. Now, the more you exercise and the more fit you become, the lower you'll notice that your pulse starts to come down when you're exercising. So the guys that run, so I said the normal pulse rate is 60 to 100. There's people that run the Comrades marathons whose resting pulse when they're just sitting at home is 42. And it's normal for them. Lance Armstrong, the guy who used to cycle, got his pulse down to 39. Now, the best way I can describe this is that if you have a car, why big engine cars last longer than small engine cars? If I have a Nissan Sunny and I want to drive it at 140 kilometers an hour, you'll find that I'm usually doing 4,000 revs per minute to maintain that speed. If I have a V8, I can get that speed at 2,500 revs. If I have a V12 at 1,800 revs, I can be at 140 kilometers an hour. So they do work without straining. So people who are fit, athletically fit, their hearts can do a lot of work, but without straining. So at 50 beats per minute of your heart, you're circulating everything that you need in your body. So you don't get to the strain zone. And yet people who are unfit just go up the stairs and their pulse rate is already 110. So you're doing high revs just to do a basic amount of work. So exercise gives you that cardiac reserve. That's what that point there makes. I said use body parts. The best exercise is where you are using your body as the weight. So these push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups, those kind of exercises, you're using your body is being forced to manage itself. Those are the ones with the more lasting results. You can push weights, and weights are not problem, but you're likely to get injured doing it. And also, when you stop pushing heavy weights, your body, that muscle that you build starts to thin out, because you need to be challenging the body every time. And yet when you are challenging your body with your body weight, you generally tend to maintain that. Be regular with exercise. Be careful, don't get injured doing exercise. So people wearing wrong shoes and running marathons, people doing squats without pulley machines, people, things that can injure you. Be careful. Whatever you bank in physical reserve is something that you're going to withdraw when you're older. One of the best things to get into your 60s with is strong thighs and strong arms and a strong core. Because people that fall and break their hips is because they don't know how to break their fall, because their arms aren't strong enough for it. And people that can't get out of chairs any longer because their thighs aren't strong enough easily get injured as well. So exercise, no one should be able to get away with this. And just because you are managing without exercise doesn't mean there comes a day where you need to have exercised. And then I said that we must go for screening because you have 2 organs of each. Usually, you don't know that things are beginning to deteriorate until it's too late. Most issues, if diabetes is caught early, can almost be reversed. Hypertension can definitely be managed. A lot of cancers can be picked up early during screening and dealt with. And peace of mind is very important for mental health, because once your mental health is out of whack, your sleep is out of whack, and your brain eventually starts to malfunction. May I have the next? This is to provoke your minds, brothers. The next one about the things that affect long life. Give me the next one, please, Langton.
Sorry, that's the last one, unless you want us to go to slide number 4.
No. Yeah, it's this one. It's this one that I want. So you notice that generally lifespan is increasing now. In Japan, being in the 90s is nothing to show off about. It's standard. Finland and most of the Western world, people are living well into their 80s. And studies are being done now to say, what are the things that affect whether you're going to live long or not? So without a shadow of doubt, genetics is key. So any of you that had grandfathers that went to 90s and 100s and parents that are in their 90s, you are likely, if you don't have an accident and if you don't abuse your body, you are likely to live as long as them, because there's genetic things associated with living long. Just like there is the determinants. If you have family that all die in their 40s and their 50s, you need to have that assessed to see what is the predisposition to that. Exercise of the ones that we can control. So you can't control genetics. Exercise of the ones that we control. People that do aerobic exercise on a regular basis generally have a 10-year longer lifespan than people that don't do exercise. And now sleep, as I said, is now coming up as quite an important one. And people that have sleep deficit don't live as long as people that have an adequate. And it's not about waiting to go, when I'm on holiday, I'm going to go on a cruise, or I'm going to go and camp, and I'm going to really spend a weekend just in bed doing nothing. No, this this sleep deficit needs to be paid on a regular basis. So that nap on a Sunday afternoon is not a luxury. It may even be a necessity. But having a sleep routine that budgets 7 hours into your sleep cycles, that I'm going to go down by 10:30 and I'm up by 5:30. Whatever we are rushing for and avoiding sleep will catches up with this. You know, your eyes already tell you with bags under your eyes that we didn't get time to repair ourselves last night. And that is happening elsewhere in your body. People that are sleep deprived have shakes. They're not, you know, when I do surgery and I haven't slept enough, they're telling me that I'm not as accurate and I'm not as efficient as I should be. People that don't sleep don't drive well. And snoring, people that snore need to have it taken. Snoring prevents you from getting into the level of sleep that requires you to repair your body. And you find people that snore are tired during the day. If they sit upright, they fall asleep, and they also fall asleep behind the wheel. And then diet, as I said, carnivorous diet, watch carbs and watch how much meat we're taking and how frequently our meals. Have periods of fasting to force your body to go into the reserve tank, because whenever it goes into the reserve tank, it does its best job and gets rid of insulin resistance, gets rid of excess fat around organs, and this is just crucial. Just because you can afford the food doesn't mean that you should buy it. We really need to think seriously about eating things out of cans, eating things that are refined. You know, the breakfast, we have been teaching patients for a long time that your best meal should be breakfast. It should be breakfast like a king, eat lunch like a prince, and eat dinner like a slave. That's what we used to teach students. But science is beginning to show that postponing your first meal, especially if you can exercise on an empty stomach, it forces your body to go and look for energy in reserve areas. And when the body is doing that, it does the best cleanup job. And so we have that slide further up, slide number 4, I think it was. And it's just a summary slide, brothers, that says, what can I do for my heart system? Control blood pressure, check cholesterol. What can I do for breathing? You can do lung function tests, but avoid smoking and pollution. And all the screening tests for cancer, do them. Have your kidney function test done. So every person here should have once a year medical. And most of the medical now with technology can be done without even necessarily being physically examined, because you can take the blood tests and the markers. And I would say every second year, have a proper physical where your doctor actually checks and touches your body and examines your openings to find out if anything sinister is going on. You know, when we talk about colonoscopy for colon cancer, if you don't have a risk factor in your family, if we did a colonoscopy today on you and colon cancer started growing tomorrow, if you do another colonoscopy in 2 years, its rate of growth will be such that it can be dealt with. In 2 years, it won't have grown as far as to spread all over your body. That's how slowly some of these things grow, like breast cancer. That's how slowly some of these things grow. And so these screens become important for us to catch them. So I'm gonna, it's 8 o'clock, brothers. I'm gonna stop there and allow us to just go into time of discussion. I hope I wasn't too scientific and gone beyond, and I hope it was simple enough to understand.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. A huge thank you to Brother Scott who got started. But real huge thank you to the doc. You've got an exceptional capability of explaining these things so simply. We really now a lot of us are feeling like doctors, and you do speak our language. You talk about cars. You use examples as cars as an example. Just as a start, what's your favorite car, doc? I mean, the favorite car out there, whether it's the type of engine, the size, the engineering, the age. What's your favorite car?
Yeah, now you're gonna catch me out. So I like I don't like speed. I like power. So I like straight six and V8 engines, but I would have to be, I think, old Mercedes. I think if you had to ask me, but my Peugeot 404 is the car that I like to show off the most with. I'm just actually getting it cleaned now. I want to go to do my rounds in it.
I'm surprised you move around with that thing. But let's get back to business. Gentlemen, let's put all the questions in the chat. Let's be quick. We only have the doctor for the next 20, 30 minutes. It's rare, it's unusual that we get access to such deep level of excellence on a Saturday morning for free from a man of God. So please, if you want your question answered, throw it in the chat. Doc, the other question I want to ask is, if I were to ask you about the 2 or 3 main slippery slopes for men, the 2 or 3 things that men do wrongly or avoid or make mistakes on the long list that you gave us, what would you pick?
It's a diet. Diet is definitely number one. I don't know there in South Africa. Here, there are places that guys go to eat lunch on a regular basis. And it's all this bones and stuff, and that stuff is not good on a regular basis. It should be a treat. So men are not eating well. Men are simply not exercising. A testosterone body requires constantly. You know, when you were 19 and 20, that you get restless if you're not busy. Men are designed to be that busy. So diet and exercise are very bad for men, but also that men do nothing about their mental health. They don't share, they don't have friends that they talk to, and so you see suicide. But before suicide, you see people that are living with just anxious experiences.
Okay, great. Doc, thank you so much. That is very, very clear, and I think it's a message we hear many times, and we need to do it. I'll take 2 questions that we have here. The first one, Moses asks. I think he asks on behalf of many wives. He says, "How can men resolve the problem of snoring?" So he says, "How can men resolve the problem of snoring?" And the next one. Victor is asking, it's almost personal, but I think he represents many people here, so I'll read through it. He says, "Thanks for the insightful presentation. I've been living with diabetes for about 3 years. Is there any possibility to reversing it?" Over to you, Doc.
So thanks. So snoring is one of 2 things. Some people just have a short neck. If you have a short, wide neck, your chances of snoring are high, because whenever you slump in sleep, you sort of block the airway. So people that then gain weight shorten and widen their necks. So that's one. So most snoring just by losing weight will go away. But there are people with large tonsils or things that we call adenoids at the back of their nasal passages that also develop snoring, and that needs to be sorted out medically. But the problem with snoring is that when you go to sleep, there's first level sleep that you go into, and then you get deeper into the second level, the most beneficial sleep. If you snore, when you are just about to get to the deep level, you block your airway, so you wake up. So you keep yourself in the first level of sleep. You never get to the right level. That's why they're tired. And eventually they get hypertension, and eventually they get right heart failure. So, but there's so much, there's things called CPAP machines. There's this loss of weight. There's so much that can be done. If you go to see an ear, nose, and throat doctor, snoring can be stopped. And then the diabetes, type 2 diabetes. So there's type 1 diabetes, which you are almost born with, where your pancreas does not produce insulin. That one is difficult to reverse. You need injections. You need your insulin injections. But type 2 diabetes that comes later in life, usually when you manage your weight, usually when you manage your diet, things are being shown now that you can bring it to very tight control easily, or eventually reverse it. And there's medications now that are there that aren't traditional diabetic medications, things like Jana or Ozempic, things like Dapsine, that just help you to pee sugar more. And it's not really a diabetes medication, but you live in, your blood sugar should always be it should be between 3 and 6. And most people can attend what they're talking about. So it is possible. There are people that, my mom used to be 110 kgs and she was needing insulin. Then she's now 90 kgs. She controls her diabetes on diet.
That is amazing, and I think that's a very positive message to all the men out there, that some of these things, if we take them seriously, it can be addressed. So thank you for that testimony. Okay, I want to pick a few questions here. The questions are coming in fast. This one says, thank you, Doc, for the information. In terms of sugar levels, are artificial sweeteners better than brown or white sugars? Some of us love a good cup of tea or coffee. So I think this is an interesting question. I think there's all sorts of those things, right? Coke Zero, all these type of artificial things. Are they good? I'll combine it with Kudzai Taone's question, because it talks to your metabolic slide. He says, what diet do you encourage and how many meals a day? Over to you, Doc.
Okay. So artificial sweeteners, okay, they don't have an impact on your sugar. There's some criticism that has come that they can cause irritation to the nervous system in the long run. Okay. So in terms of raising blood sugar, they definitely don't raise blood sugar like brown or white sugar. Brown and white sugar are the same. It's just the coloring. There's no healthier sugar. So artificial sweeteners just help you to tolerate your beverage. But here's something that is truly scientific, and it's to do with sugar and it's to do with salt. Most Africans generally eat too much salt, and it's difficult to change that because it's habit. But they took people and took them in a study. They took people for 7 days and gave them food that had no salt at all for 7 days. When they brought them back to salt, all their usual salt was too salty for them. So you can decondition yourself to salt by just go on a blitz and say, whatever my wife has cooked in, I'm not going to add anything for a week or for 10 days. At first, the food tastes bad and sounds bad. But eventually, your body just adjusts that this is what we are being offered. And it's the same with sugar. I said, as far as sugar is concerned, I will stop all sugar except in my coffee. Then I went 2 weeks with just drinking my coffee without sugar. I cannot put sugar in coffee now. So you can decondition yourself. Scientifically, this has been shown that you can do. You just deny yourself for a short period of time. So as far as meals are concerned, it's not so much the frequency of the meals, but the calorific content of the meals. For sure, if you postpone your first meal for the day, you force your body to work on everything from last night and to work. So I would recommend a late breakfast. So 11 o'clock, first meal, and have it just as fruit and veggies, etc., just to force your body. And then have a normal lunch if you should so want, and have a modest dinner. But to load up in the morning when you get up and you're not running with eggs and bacon and toast with butter and honey, the body says, thank you very much, we don't need to do any work.
Okay, great. I think you are spot on education. A lot of us on the wrong side there, Doc. Let me touch a few questions here. Takura says, how can we, he ask a more philosophical, political type of question. How can we make men's health a primary worldwide, or maybe within our, a priority worldwide, or maybe within our society, within SADC? And I wanted to touch it with Kennedy's question. Kenneth says, thank you, Doc. What causes blood cancers? Over to you.
Okay, so men's health, if we talk on this platform and our parents' platforms, it's rare to find someone whose mother has died. It's very common to find someone whose father has died. Most people were raised by mothers because fathers died early. And it's because firstly, they may have had no knowledge. And secondly, when the warning signs come up, you know, when your car right now just flashes that engine, that orange light, that's it, the car is parked. You're calling in. But when your body gives you the orange check light, there's people who are sitting here who may have had a headache for 2 weeks. And are just saying, okay, no, my head, you know, I've got headaches. But you don't know, maybe your blood pressure is super high. And it just stop. When the check light comes on, stop and go and be checked. So men's health is really about being proactive and prioritizing and doing these checks. Blood cancers are usually, there's a few leukemias that are seen in places where there's poisons like paint. People that work in paint factories can get leukemia. I'm talking about the majority of them, the cause we don't know of blood cancers. Immunosuppression, HIV definitely brought us lymphomas and some leukemias, but most people with blood cancers, it's just almost, and I say genetic in front of Christians just to remain scientific, but they're kind of hereditary blood cancers, or blood cancers that just come. There's things called multiple myeloma, the leukemias, the lymphomas that don't have any scientific answer yet as to why they are caused. But definitely HIV, which is not controlled, because people, when they control their HIV, those blood cancers go away. And then also people that work in toxin environment, people, can also get blood cancer as a result, and bone marrow cancers.
Thanks, Doc. Firstly, Dennis got back. He says, thank you so much, Doc. That gives me hope. I'm sure it's not only him. It's many people who are getting hope from your message, and hope for relatives as well. Let's quickly take a few heavy questions that we can put. We are running out of time, so we won't be able to go through all the questions. But one of the questions here says, what from Unload says, what comprehensive body tests, for example, colonoscopy, can we prioritize considering potential costs? Can we develop a plan around the timing of these tests in terms of priority? I'll combine it with another fairly heavy one, Doc, which says, thank you for demystifying some of the myths here. That's Shepard. He says, you spoke about lessening the meat intake. How is that balanced when one is lifting weights and protein is suggested for the process? Would protein supplements be an alternative instead? Over to you, Doc.
Good. That's a lovely question. So the first one there said, what tests should we do and when? Guys, it's so, you can talk to AI today and say, what screening tests should I do at 30, at 40, at 50, and at 60. But basically, I would like you to know your body the way you know your car, right? How's your suspension? Have you got joint pains? Have you got backache that has not been diagnosed? You just say, my back is sore. How's your suspension? How's your fuel system? How's your heart? The quality of your blood? There's a test called the full blood count that we do. What's the quality of your blood and what's its circulation? How's the pump working? How's your breathing system? So these things, so there's blood tests, which are the easiest. And then from 40 on, you must do some of these invasive tests, an endoscopy, a colonoscopy, a digital rectal examination. I'm very unpopular with pastors and some of you guys. If you come to me and you're past 40, I will examine your prostate with my finger, whatever you say, because it will save lives. And what you have it once every 3 or 4 years, what's the problem? So the list, you should form your own checklist. If you'd like me to give you the form that I use for my patients, I'll share that form and make sure that you have it done. The second part of the question said, if I'm training and I need protein, and for sure you need protein if you're training. So here's a relief for you guys today. If you are exercising regularly, you almost can get away with most dietary indiscretions because you burn what you are working with. But you do need protein. So if you eat meat and you're lifting weights, there's nothing wrong with that. Protein supplements are also good. The problem with certain meats, lean meat, which is chicken, fish, delivers mostly protein and just protein. Beef, so there's animals that store their fat in their skin. You know, pig stores its fat in its skin. Chicken stores its fat in its skin. Fish stores its fat in its skin. So if you eat just the meat part of those, it's lean. Red meat, lamb and beef, they don't have fat in. The fat is in the muscles. So when you eat the protein there, you are eating both protein and fat. That's the reason why people de-emphasize beef. It's simply because you are eating both the protein and the fat. But if you eat beef twice a week, and you're exercising, there's nothing wrong with that. But you know people that eat beef every single day, and people who actually say, "Nini, my favorite is beef. I don't like chicken so much. Oh, I get fed up with chicken." You must balance the protein, and so lean meat. If you're exercising, number one. From time to time, red meat. And then if you're really high energy training, high impact training, then take protein shakes.
Great. Thanks, Doc. That test that you refer to is very uncomfortable. I think medical science should find an easier test.
Yeah, but you can now do it without the finger, because if you guys in sophisticated environments, just an ultrasound scan can pick up the size of the prostate. It's on all its so if you don't like the test, you just go to a doctor and say, use the scan. Dr. Wazara said you can use the scan.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's huge relief. Thank you so much. You have answered Brother Tuff's question in advance there, so I will not pick it. But I want to pick two questions. One from Adil, Brother Adil, and then combined with Brother Sam. Adil says, does too much lactose affect our health negatively? That is the digestive system. For example, you have 5 or so cups of coffees with lots of milk and no sugars. And I think this applies to all the lattes that are there right these days, and they've got lots of sugar. And then Brother Sam says, great presentation, Doc. What is the effect of alcohol on men's health? Over to you.
Okay. So lactose, if you are so all of us just about are born able to digest milk. All of us. As you get older and you're weaned off the breast, some people lose their ability to digest milk because you no longer need it. And if they're introduced to dairy, if they're introduced to cheese, if they're introduced to milk itself, they get lactose intolerance. So lactose intolerance is not a disease. It just says that you have lost your ability to digest milk. If you persist, sometimes you can retrain yourself. If you persist in taking small amounts, you can retrain yourself, but it's hardly worth it because of the diarrhea and the other symptoms that you can get. Guys, I'm going to quickly just put my charger on. I saw that my computer is complaining. Let me just
please go for it, Doc. We certainly want you with more power there so that we can hear you clearly.
You can hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. So milk should be looked at in terms of its protein content. Milk is both protein and fat. So the amount of milk that people drink in tea and coffee is not usually that much, unless you are those that put whipped cream in your coffee and so on. And so you balance that with exercise, but you can get a count. You can get a calculator. There's an app that you can get that says how much grams of protein on this, how much grams of protein should I take a day normally for maintenance, and how many grams of protein should I take if I'm exercising. And then you can figure it out how much you are taking and so that you don't go beyond that. Then Sam says alcohol and health. So let's say this. Alcohol that is drunk on a regular basis, we used to say 3 units per day. So when you drink alcohol, what happens? You drink alcohol, some of it goes, well, all of it goes, it dilutes your balance system in your brain. That's why you feel light-headed. That tipsy feeling is of your balance mechanism in the head. Alcohol makes your blood vessels wider. Alcohol stimulates insulin. So some people feel when you eat and drink alcohol, they feel my food tastes better and it's just the insulin that's been stimulated. Now, if we would use alcohol, there wouldn't be a disaster. The problem is that what you need to get this effect that I'm talking about is probably half a glass or 1 glass of wine. The remainder needs to go to the liver now, to be detoxified, to be removed from your body. That's why you start to pee a lot, because the liver just says, we're not used to this amount, let's try and get rid of it. And we keep taking. So your factory, which is the liver, now has to work constantly at a higher rate to try and get rid of this alcohol. And that's how the liver gets damaged. And the neater and the purer the alcohol is, the more the effect. So the spirits that are 40% do more harm than the lagers that are 3% or chibuku that is 2.5%, etc. So alcohol is a toxin, and the more that there is in the body, the harder it is for the body to process it. But having said that, also alcohol is high in calorie, and number 3, alcohol is responsible, particularly beer for some reason, for colon cancers. It's linked. It predisposes to colon cancer. So it does harm on your body. Number 1, besides what just the brain compromising judgment that it does harm in making your liver work all the time. So when we do your liver function test, there's an enzyme called GGT that I can pick up that this brother takes too much. The liver is not getting time to rest. And in the end, the liver will protest by cirrhosis. And once you have cirrhosis, now you have replaced liver cells. It's like you have replaced bricks with cement. And that building now is not going to work.
Great. Thank you so much. I'll probably just lump 2-3 questions here and close. Firstly,
sorry, Felix. I know I know someone might be lurking in the dark. They're asking, but they told us that alcohol is good. They told Timothy to drink alcohol a little bit. It's good for your stomach. Yeah. But people are drinking it without stomach problems. Number one. Number two, it is true that particularly the red antioxidants in red alcohol have a beneficial effect on the heart and keeping the veins of the heart open. That is true. But you get the exact same effect by eating red grapes. You get the exact same effect by even non-fermented alcohol. So don't just drink it for your heart. You can just go to Stellenbosch and buy a bunch of grapes and you get the same effect.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I am out of time, so I want to just throw in 2 or 3 questions. Firstly, can cholesterol be reversed? Then secondly, Brother Uko is an interesting question about he has stopped smoking, but he said, I've recently stopped smoking cigarettes, taking prescribed medication and substituted nicotine intake via vaping. Is it better or is it worse than cigarettes? Then let me bring you this question. I think Brother Henry gave quite a nice question to close with. He says, thanks, Doc, for the presentation. These are the things that we know and we take for granted. You have highlighted many things that men should do and we are not doing. What are the minimum things we should do? Exercise how many times a week? Diet, meet how many times a week? Sleep, checks. And what Brother Henry is looking for is probably what I'll ask you to just summarize in the end. He's looking for a list of do's and don'ts, and he just tries to run his life that way. Obviously, he wants to oversimplify it, but let me leave it with you. Over to you, Doc.
Okay, so the vaping and smoking issue. So remember, I said in cigarettes is both nicotine and tar. Nicotine, the one that gives the feeling that smokers, the relaxed feeling that smokers are looking for, is nicotine. And that goes into your blood and has got a certain concentration in your blood. The second that goes in your lungs when you smoke is tar, which is the soot, the charcoal that goes into your lungs. That's the one that is most responsible for lung cancer. Nicotine is responsible for making your blood vessels smaller. And so if you have cholesterol and other issues, if you make your blood vessels smaller, they're likely to block easily. That's why smokers get more heart attacks and more strokes and more difficulty in sexual function or circulation in their body. Now, they improved on this. I say improved by giving vaping. Vaping takes away the tar. It doesn't have the pollution of the charcoal, but it has a higher concentration of nicotine. Sometimes, as I said, 10 times what is in a cigarette in a single vaping incident. And those shisha, what do they call them? Those shisha, I think it's called. They have nicotine, but that goes straight into the blood. The problem with most of the vapes is that they, to imitate smoke, that stuff that they make you puff out, is aerosol. It's a chemical propellant, and that aerosol is damaging to the lungs, and it makes little holes in the lungs. It doesn't cause cancer as tar did so far, but it causes little holes that reduce the amount of surface area that you have for breathing, and eventually causes these people to suffer what is called VALI, vaping-associated lung injury. The second question was about what guidelines do we give? 7 hours of sleep should be the target. 3, exercise. So we talk about getting your heart rate 30% above your resting rate 3 times a week for an hour. So you should do 3 hours of exercise per week, roughly, aerobic exercise. And those that lift weights, do your weights, but you still need to run on the treadmill just to force the heart to beat faster and build that reserve. they're showing that sexual intercourse is good for your prostate health. So you married guys should have intimacy 3 times a week to maintain your internal health as well. What was the other one? Blood sugar said must be between 3 and 6. And your blood pressure, the top one should be 140 or less. The bottom one should be 85 or less. Guys, each one of us should have your own blood pressure machine at home. And you should know how to interpret your own blood pressure. And not wait to say, I'm going for a checkup at my doctor to check my blood. No, blood pressure, you check your own tire pressure at the garage without having to go to the mechanic. And we should do the same for our blood pressure.
Wow, that's insightful. That's a good challenge. Thank you so much. Doc, we are out of time, but we really appreciate your insight. I hope we'll be able to get you, ask Brother Sam to get you next time and even spend more time with you. But thank you so much. May God bless you and remember you for your time. Please allow me to close with a word of prayer. Dear Master, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for each and every man who is represented. We thank you for the bodies that you have blessed us with. We thank you for the health that you have given us and the life that we enjoy and that we have. We pray that you keep guiding us and leading us so that we live it responsibly and live according to your word. We thank you for Dr. Wazara. We pray that you continue increasing his insight. You continue leading him, continue guiding him. Master, we pray that you help him in his practice, in his craft. You make him sharper. You make him better, that you embody him with your Holy Spirit to do everything that he does with the excellence that you convey, you put upon him. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Doc.